Hello, fellow hobby nerd. It is I, Solocross, and in this video, I'm going to update you with week 3 of my hobby streak. My hobby week streak. My hobby streak week? Whatever. The thing that I'm calling the war on hobby piles. And so, early in this week, I fully painted a little unit of killer cans. And that has its own video, which I've already published, so I won't dwell on that. The killer cans did cover me for the minimum 4 hours I need to do for my hobby streak to maintain the streak per week. But I did want to do a little bit more if I could. So I was going to do some Grots, but then I realized something. I want to make a dread mob for Warhammer 40,000. I was thinking about a Groot list, but I did enjoy the killer cans so much, and I realized I could paint them very fast as well. And so I thought a dread mob actually could be potentially very fast to get to the table. So anyway, I kind of want to do a dread mob, which is an orcs list, basically, with lots of heavy walkers in it, such as Gorkanauts and killer cans and death dreads and whatnot. And I don't actually have that many models in my pile of shame that are useful for a dread mob, so I'm going to have to buy more, I suppose, at some point, which is not great from the point of view of reducing the size of my pile of shame, because of course that's kind of the point of a hobby streak. Why I'm doing the hobby streak is to make it smaller. And as you may remember from some of the other earlier videos, I've already been spending more than I've been painting. So since I started doing the hobby streak. But never mind, at least I am getting things done. So thought is I would do a dread mob. I'm going to focus on a dread mob because originally I was thinking about a Groot hunting pack. And so I partly painted some Groot in week 1 or 2. I assembled them week 1 and I sort of primed the Groot in week 2. Yes, I think that's right. So I'm going to put these on the shelf, poor lads, because I'm going to focus on orcs and specifically a dread mob. Till I have a dread mob, I'm going to try and focus on orcs. Well, the one thing I do have in my orcs backlog of kits is these rather fun non-GW, non-Games Workshop Grots or Gretchen. I've got this rather nice box of Soviet goblins from Cromlech, and if I fish around in my box, I also have got this little group of 10 Grots from an unknown company. They are quite similar. They do look quite similar. They're obviously meant to be something like Soviet Grots or Rebel Grots, and so they do have a vaguely sort of Soviet style in dress in terms of helmets and whatnot. So they go together, these two completely different kits from different manufacturers. They do happen to go quite well together. So that's what we're going to do. I basically, for bonus points in week 3, I am assembling these. That's what I'm doing. So I suppose in a way, it's sort of an unboxing video this week. As we can see, that's what we get here. We've got the Cromlech ones are all resin, and they're quite varied styles. They're quite individually unique in terms of posing and whatnot. They've got a little standard bearer and a musician, so it's almost like an old-fashioned or an old Warhammer Fantasy sort of a regiment, because they got a standard bearer, a hero, and a musician. That's quite standard for Warhammer Fantasy battles back in the day. Not really so much of a thing in Warhammer 40k. Never has been. They never really did that. Sometimes you'd have people with standards like Space Marines or whatever, and of course orcs generally do have boss polls, but they don't really have the sort of full sort of command section of a standard bearer, musician, and champion. And actually, come to think of it, this champion doesn't really look like a grot. He looks more like an orc to me, so he's probably a runt herd. And according to 10th edition rules, that sort of makes him a little bit well, if he is a grunt herd, then that means this unit is 1 grot short, because you have to have 10 grots and 1 runt herd, or rather 1 runt herd for every 10 grots. And so I've got, in this unit will be 20 grots. One of them could have been a runt herd, so we still need 1 more grot. Anyway, so the other unit is they're all pretty much the same. There's slight variations, but they've all got helmets. They've all got the same kind of coat, and they've all got pretty much the same kind of gun. So, so they are quite different. And also the other thing is this other kit, which I honestly have no idea what company made it. I did buy it secondhand, I think, off eBay, so it's all a bit of a mystery, that. But you can see they have resin bodies and metal heads and guns, which is quite interesting, the unusual combo. But anyway, so this is not ideal. In some ways, we'd like it all to be plastic, but we didn't get plastic. That's just the way it is. We can't help that. It's just going to be resin and metal. So never mind. We crack on anyway. We crack on. And this isn't really going to be like a tutorial or anything, so I won't really go into details of what the process is, but it's the usual things you'd have to do, snipping them off their little stands or sprues. They're not really sprues like plastic, but, you know, that's how it goes. And also I had to wash all the bits as well to get, that's done off camera, to get the mold release sort of formula or the lubricant or whatever it is. Make sure that's off before painting anyway. And I did break a couple of pieces, which is like, for example, this little chap's lost his grenade. That came off just when I was trying to snip it from the sprue. But it's no big deal because Grots in the 10th edition rules are not grenadiers, so they don't really have grenades anyway. So what I'm going to do is just stick this little Groot spare pistol on him, and then that'll be his Grot blaster, and we'll just pretend he's holding his arms out for no good reason whatsoever instead of trying to throw a grenade. So yes, it's basically just cleaning the mold lines off, the usual stuff, sticking them to the bases, sticking on their heads, sticking on their arms, and basing them and all that. That's what I did for bonus points, really. And these ones which need their heads to be glued on and their guns, I've gone and brushed on a little bit of primer underneath where the guns go, just because that'll be fiddly to paint after assembly. So there's one of those things you sometimes have to do. So in a way, it's kind of like a kit review, though you're very unlikely to find these now. Although I think Cromlech still probably sells it, but this other kit I suspect is probably virtually unavailable at this point. And there we go. That's what I did in week 3 of the hobby streak. Fully painted killer cans and this lovely mob of rebel grots or commie grots. I'll put a link in the video description for where you can get these Soviet goblins, the Cromlech ones anyway. That'll do. Bye for now.